Welcome again to Discipleship Diagnostics, the videos that help answer all the questions that you have about discipleship and the Discipleship Pack. Discipleship, it's more than just what happens when you cross St. Peter with a cruise liner. Today's question comes from Jason in Cambridge.
So what should our discipleship time actually look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we've kind of looked at who we want to disciple and how we make that decision. We've asked them and they've said yes. And we've even looked a little bit about where we meet and how long for. And if you didn't see our video last time, we'd really recommend watching it. But we kind of landed on this idea of being aware of your young people and where they're at. So for example, young teenage boys might not quite have the attention span of older girls.
Yeah, isn't the rule of thumb kind of for children or young people that they can pay attention for as many minutes as they are old before they need a break?
Yep, and as they get older, maybe that doesn't increase. But yeah, I think the newer you are to the relationship with those young people, or the newer they are to faith, actually you need more time building trust and building relationship before you can do some content or something you want to do with them.
That's a really good thought, Claire. So how would you structure your discipleship time?
I kind of focus on four key areas. The first one would be just catching up and chatting about what's going on, checking in with how they're doing emotionally about some of those things, then some sort of intentional input that you've thought about ahead of time, and also remembering to take time to follow up what you've done with them before.
So that's a really helpful structure to remember it, Claire. Can you help us unpack a bit more what you mean by the catch-up?
That's probably the time where you're mostly just asking them questions about their week, sharing life so that you know what's going on in theirs and they know a bit about yours. Sometimes it's helpful to have just an easy game that doesn't require much concentration, so you can interact over something you're doing together, but it's not all pressure on the conversation, but that gives you space to chat. So something like Uno or Jenga that you can just kind of play while you talk is great.
And I know that the next point you talked about was this idea of check-in. I know that's something you've got a lot of thoughts about, Darin. Do you want to unpack some of that for us?
Yeah, it's just taking what Claire talked about to the next level. So with young people, a lot of times you can get the details of their day or the facts about the week, but you don't know if they have any emotions attached to it. Like, was that a big deal or was that just something that happened? So it's really getting to the emotions behind what happened. And I like to use little things like maybe pick an emoji on your phone or find an object in the room that explains how you felt about life today. We use this little blob tree resource to talk about feelings. So yeah, it's getting behind the emotions of how they're doing.
Yeah, that really makes sense. That's really helpful. So Claire, I think that next point that you were really talking about was the intentional input time. And I know that the Discipleship Pack tool really goes into that in a lot more depth. So we will be looking at that a lot deeper in future videos. But is there anything that you'd want to touch on about that now?
Yeah, I guess it feels kind of self-explanatory to read the Bible, pray together, maybe bring in a resource that helps you do those things in a more full way. And we'll talk about the Discipleship Pack, and that gives lots of good ideas as well. But I think the key thing not to lose is about being intentional with that time, because so often as youth workers we take time to react and respond to what young people are sharing and care emotionally for them and that kind of thing. If we only ever respond to the things that they raise, we're going to miss this whole areas for growth that we can see that maybe they're not aware of. And so actually as the adult and the leader in the situation, we might see areas that they don't see. And so if we never focus on those and give all our time to being responsive, then the young person misses out, and actually it doesn't help them become well-rounded and mature as a person. So we need to think intentionally about what we do in that time.
I think that's some really good thoughts, Claire. And then just before we go, I know the fourth point you mentioned was about follow-up. So Darin, do you want to explain kind of why that's important and what we mean when we say follow-up?
Yeah, it happens to me every time. You have a great discipleship time and you walk away from it and you think, I know I'm going to remember all those really important things a young person shared. But then your week goes on, other things come up, you have to prepare talks, you have to be in the school, and you find next week you're walking into that discipleship time and you can't remember a single thing the young person told you. Maybe it's just me, but that's where I have to, following a discipleship time, I have to write down what the young people shared. So I'll open up a note on my phone, or I actually have on my laptop a place for notes, and I'll just jot some things down that I want to remember for next time.
Yeah, so maybe what exam they had or something that's come up that they've shared about. I think the other important thing to do with that is once you've jotted down those things is try and remember to send them a message during the week to say, hey, I'm praying for that exam, or thinking about this situation with your family that's been going on. So they know it's not just about that time, but you still are interested in their life outside of it.
So that's a really clear structure, guys, so thanks for laying that out. But that's all we've got time for today. Hopefully that's a structure that you feel you can use and will be really helpful. But keep sending in those questions and tune in next time as we continue to answer them.